Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight's info session on Game of Apps. Tonight's agenda will be very simple. A quick intro about myself, and then an overview, why technology, why are we teaching technology in Game of Apps? And then we'll jump into some information about the Game of Apps program. And then, as I said at the end, we'll have a Q&A. My family immigrated to Canada when I was in grade 7. This was way back in 1980. You'll see here a newspaper clipping from October 1980. And that was the year that the Richmond School District purchased their first Apple II computers. So this tells you how old I am. I grew up in Richmond. I still live in Richmond now. This next slide here shows you an Apple II computer. This is the first mass-produced consumer computer from Apple Computers. This was built in the garage of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And I wrote my very first computer program on this computer in grade 7. And I was able to do that because my grade 7 teacher, who was not a software developer, but back then all computers came with programming manuals. He made an invitation to whoever wanted to learn how to write computer programs for the Apple II. Let's say after school. We only had this computer 1 week out of every 3 weeks. So for the weeks that we had it, whoever wanted to learn how to program it can stay after school with Mr. Bussey. And we just started writing our programs together. When I went to grade 8, we didn't have any computer courses, so I didn't have any formal computer classes until first year university at UBC. Since then, I've been working in tech for the last 35 years. So one of the things that I saw was that there's still today students who go into university, even in highly technical fields like computer science or engineering. And many of those students have never coded before. And the first time they code is in first year university. And I'm thinking this shouldn't be that way. And so I spoke to the Richmond School District and say, why is that? And they said they would love to offer coding classes in school, but the main problem is they don't have teachers who can teach that. And so this is how Game of Apps started. We thought, why don't we have a partnership where, we have people in the industry, people like me, software developers who do this for a living, partner with schools and school districts, and let's offer a program where students can not only learn coding, but be exposed to what technology is all about. I've seen many students who go into first or second year computer science and then realize, hey, you know what? This is not what I want to do. And they end up switching majors. We have many misconceptions today among teachers and parents on what type of student might do well in technology. Game of Apps was born out of that to give students exposure, both students who are already interested in tech, as well as students who maybe are not interested in tech. And we want to expose them to technology so that they can make better decisions as to what they want to do for their future career. So why technology? What are we talking about digital skills? It's more than just coding. One of the things to understand too is that the tech industry itself is evolving. When I started working way back in 1990, we just needed to know how to code. We just needed to have a very analytical mindset, and we needed to be able to code. Our apps are going to be used by other engineers, so we would ship it, with like a 500-page manual, and we know that the engineers will read our manuals and figure out how to use our systems. That's no longer the case. Now, we have apps where people don't even read the user manual, so it needs to be user-friendly. It needs to be a delight to use. People need to be able to discover how to use your app without reading the manual. So there's a lot of additional skills that are now needed in the tech industry, much more than what I started off with when I started in the industry. So things like adaptability, like critical thinking for sure, curiosity, solving ambiguous problems, adaptability, I mentioned the entrepreneurial, those are all skills that are needed for 21st century careers. In Game of Apps, we want to target two types of students. One is someone who might be already interested in technology. We want to expose them to how we actually build tech products so that they have a better understanding of what potentially they might do to prepare themselves and also what possible career paths are available to them. The second type of student is someone who may not be interested in tech. Maybe they're an artist, maybe they're a musician, maybe they're an athlete, and they never thought about tech. We want to expose them as well because we've seen in the industry, I've worked with lots of people who ended up working in tech but did not start off in their education in tech. But sometime later on in their life, they realized, hey, this is something that I love, and not only that, this is something that I enjoy doing. So we want to expose students early on to that. Whether or not our students end up going into tech is not our primary goal. Our primary goal is to expose them to what technology is about. One of the things that separates us from maybe other coding programs that you might see out there or maybe on the internet is that the students use exactly the same tools that we use in the industry. The programming languages that we use, Swift or Java, the apps that they build for iPhone or Android, even all the different processes that we follow in terms of building a tech product, the students will emulate that in the small projects that they work in. Because as I said, our goal is to expose them to how we actually build tech products. So what does that entail? That means that they need to work in groups. Almost every single tech product you can think of today, any app that you can think of, was built not by one person, but by a team of people. And so we want to expose them to that. Most of the coding programs that you see out there are very, individual focused. They just learn how to code on their own, and then that's it, right? And maybe they get tested on their coding skills. But coding skills is just a part of what makes someone successful in the tech industry. There's a whole bunch of other skill sets that are needed. So we want to expose students to that, and we want them to practice them. So what are those skill sets? There's things like critical thinking, problem solving, and those two are very important skills. People are concerned, is AI going to take coding jobs away? And I can tell you right now, the answer is no. What it's going to take away is the very menial type of just coding, where you're just typing in code without really understanding what the whole application is all about. That type of work will be replaced by AI, and we want that to be replaced, right? Because we want people to be working at a higher level where they're actually understanding the problem that we're trying to solve and how best to solve that problem. So that's where software engineers are going to do more and more of their work, while tools like AI and other tools that we have, to generate code will churn out the code. But we still need to learn all these skills, right? So number one, we use the same tools as the industry. Number two, all of our instructors and mentors work in the tech industry. Everyone that the students will interact with in the program are people already working in the tech industry. That means that they're going to be learning not just the basic principles of coding, but they're going to have a deeper insight into why we do the things we do, because these mentors are doing this on a day-to-day basis. And number two, the students will be able to ask a lot of questions about the mentors' career paths, the decisions that they took in terms of the courses that they took, and as well as what companies they worked for. All that insight is really, really important. A lot of our past students have told us that this is one of the big things that they really enjoyed about Game of Apps. There's not very many opportunities for students in high school, or actually even in university, to be able to interact with people who are in the industry. And the third I touched on already is that we are teaching not just technical skills, but we are having the students exercise a lot of the soft skills that are needed to succeed, not just in the tech industry, but actually in all future careers. I've mentioned critical thinking and problem solving. There's collaboration and teamwork. In our startup school program, we have a number of projects that the students need to work through, and all those projects are with a team, and so they need to be able to collaborate and work with other students. Time management, presentation and public speaking, so lots and lots of other soft skills. And this article here just goes to show you that in the future, actually, I think even now, we don't even have to wait till the future. A lot of the careers and work that we have available will require a lot of soft skills. So here I'm going to just run a quick video, and I'll come back afterwards.
I really like the idea of creating an app because I haven't had that chance to do that, and I don't think there are a lot of programs where you do that.
This is Joy. Joy joined us in our first year. So Game of Apps is now in our 8th year. In our first year, she was grade 11, and she joined the program. Joy is actually not a tech person. She's an artist. She's a painter and a musician. But that year, she saw a poster in her school at Richmond Secondary, and she said, hey, coding, maybe I should try learning coding just to see what it's all about. And she joined us, and she really enjoyed that because she realized that there's actually a job title called a product designer that she didn't know anything about, that's very much needed in the tech industry. And she goes, hey, my skill set and my background can fit into this type of job. And so she joined us again in our second year. She was grade 12. because she wanted to interact more with our product designer mentors to understand maybe what possible career path she can take. Prior to that, in her own words, her ambition in life was to become a starving artist, because both she and her mom knew that that was her passion, but that it would be very difficult to earn a living. So she joined us in grade 12. She did really well. During her grade 12 year, she applied to and got accepted into the Carnegie Mellon School of Interaction Design. It's one of the top premier schools for interaction design in the world. So we were so excited for her. And we actually did a video with her, a testimonial video that I told her we can use to encourage future students. So we did that video. And then that summer, around the August timeframe, I bumped into her at the Richmond Public Library. And I said, "Hey, Joy, are you getting ready to go to Carnegie Mellon?" And she goes, "Hey, Roland, no. That video that we took, it doesn't apply anymore." I said, "What do you mean it doesn't apply?" She goes, I turned down Carnegie Mellon." And I go, "What? Why would you do that? Like, people would literally, do anything to get into that school." And she goes, "The last few months, I started dabbling into virtual reality." And remember, this was 6 years ago. She bought a pair of VR goggles, and she started merging her love for art and music and technology. And she started doing virtual concerts where people from all over the world would attend her virtual concert, where she would play her music. She has a virtual console where she can trigger different sounds and different notes. And then she has a light show and her artwork going around. So it's basically a concert, a virtual concert. And I said, "Wow, Joe, I didn't know you can do that." And she goes, "Yeah." She was, at that time, only one of 50 people in the whole world who did virtual concerts. And during one of her concerts, a professor from UCLA attended. And right after the show, he reached out to her and recruited her and said, "Don't go to Carnegie Mellon. Come to UCLA instead, because we have a VR program, a brand new VR program, and you're going to enjoy that." So that's what she ended up doing. She ended up going to UCLA. So I tell this story for a couple of reasons. Number one, I tell all of our students that the majority of students who are in high school today, when they graduate university, maybe 6-7 years from now, a lot of them will have jobs where your job title does not exist yet today. So I'm going to repeat that. The jobs that some of these students will take 6-7 years from now, 6, 7, 8 years from now, some of those jobs, that job title and even that job description do not exist yet today. That's really exciting. That's why I went into the tech industry, because it moves so fast. Innovation, there's so much innovation in the world. It's touching everything, not just the tech industry, but every single field, whether it's finance, whether it's real estate, whether it's healthcare, whether it's legal. Any industry you can think of is being touched by technology, and it's changing really fast. And so it's really exciting. For me anyway, who loves technology. But that's why we teach skills like adaptability, because you need to be able to adapt in order to do well in this type of future career. So we have a number of programs, but we've divided into two major ones. The first one, Intro to Programming, we have 2 levels. These are for students between grade 6 to grade 9. So this is an introduction for someone who's never done coding before, but also aimed at younger students, where they learn to code in this environment where they're controlling this little guy here called Byte, and they have to write code to basically have him go around and solve different puzzles. So it's a really fun environment for them to learn. And then for the older students, grade 10 to grade 12, we have the Startup School program. So I'm running this video in the background, and I turn off the sound. This is actually the presentation of the team that won the championship last year. Okay, so the Startup School is a competition. We've had a competition since we started 8 years ago. And this program, Startup School, is divided into 2 segments. The first half, or maybe first 2/3, the students learn the fundamentals of design, coding, and entrepreneurship. And then the last maybe third of the program, they build an app. We give them a specific problem, and they build an app from scratch. And then at the end, they will present this app in front of a panel of judges. So we have different judges each year, but in the past we've had judges from in the industry like Amazon and Google. We also have judges from academia, so professors from BCIT. Actually, the dean, one of the deans of BCIT was a judge last year, and Simon Fraser. So these are industry and academic judges that they will have to present to, and then they have to defend their product and their app. And so it's a very fun environment. So what you're seeing here, this presentation behind me, is actually the submission of the team that won last year. Okay, so here, this is where they're now having to present to the judge. So Kelvin, the gentleman on the top right, he's a senior program manager with Amazon, so he was one of our judges. Down on your bottom right there, that's Roland. He's one of our mentors. He's a software developer in the industry, so he's hosting this this segment here. And then over to our left, those are the 4 students who built that app. Okay. So that's our senior program. Again, this is for students in grades 10 to 12. They're going to be learning, as I mentioned, design, coding, and entrepreneurship. And also, they will be building an Android app. I'm going to show you one more video.
I'll tell you something that I always tell myself, because I'm sure some of these students are probably going to university next year or are going to be close to. University gets tough, and sometimes workloads are overwhelming, and I'm sure if you're in Game of Apps and you are quite an ambitious student, and you'll find yourself in times where you'll have multiple deadlines in a very short period of time, and you're just going to kind of question why you're doing any of this to yourself. But one thing I like to remind myself of is learning is a privilege, and receiving a higher education is also a privilege. And there's many people around the world who don't even have the opportunity or the right to go to school, whether it's their gender or their country's at war, whatever it may be. The fact that your only worry, or maybe one of your very few worries, is your next assignment or test is a privilege. And it's a gift to learn, truly. I mean, no harm, no foul to whatever you're learning. So count your blessings, and when things get overwhelming, just take a step back and remind yourself that it's a privilege.
All right, so that lady you saw in the video there is Yasmin. She was with us in season 2. She went to Sentinel Secondary in West Vancouver, and after she graduated grade 12, she went to Simon Fraser University, and she pursued a sustainable engineering program. Again, a sustainable engineering, that she was in the first batch of students in that brand new program called Sustainable Engineering. So it goes to show you again, right? A lot of future jobs, those titles don't exist yet today. So here's one final slide I want to show you. This was a whole bunch of students from Steveston, London. They're all grade 10 students, and they won the championship in the first year, our very first year of Game of Apps. So these 5 students, and so I'm there on the right side with the toque, and right behind me, that gentleman with the gray hair, that's Mr. Bussy. If you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I told you my grade 7 teacher was the one who taught me how to write my first program. So he's retired now. He still lives in Richmond, and so what we've done to honor him is that trophy. So the winning team wins that trophy every year. That trophy is named the Glenn Bussey Trophy in honor of my grade 7 teacher. We have a lot more details on our website, gameofapps.org, but I want to take, and also our social media here, our different channels. So if after we end this call, you go, oh, I had a question, forgot to ask, feel free to email me with this. I'll be happy to answer you with that as well. Thank you again for attending tonight's info session. I look forward to meeting your student in class. Take care, everyone. Have a great evening, and hope to see you again soon. Okay, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.